Salud. Otesa. Emi lo latimo mohoye. De lafia. Divine risings and rotations, beloved army, beloved army. Ujima. Collective works and responsibility. In order for change to take place, a message has to be relayed. A lesson has to be taught. See, I'm a firm knower in yesterday is not as successful in today if it wasn't successful in yesterday. But interestingly, I'm starting to think that many of them were plants. But interestingly, we keep following the same suit, expecting a different result. We keep playing with the same hand, thinking we'll play it better this time. If you ain't got no spades, you ain't got no spades in this game of spades. And if you have no spades, and your partner has no spades, 9 out of 10, somebody's cheating you. If that consistently is your hand, or you're cheating yourself by not cutting the deck, by not seeing to it that the deck is appropriately shuffled, or that some new cards are brought forward because the old cards may have been mixed up and meshed up, and it ain't even a legitimate cards present. You know, it seems easy to embrace people that you don't know. And that's on all levels. Like, we get with social organizations, gangs, whatever you want to call it. We get with religious structures, whatever you want to call it. We get with cultish structures, whatever you want to call it. We do all of these things, right? We even get in relationships with people, whatever you want to call it. Ships. We boarding ships now with no one pushing us into boarding the ship. We're willingly boarding the ship. We're fighting each other to board the ships. They talk a lot about AI. And we feed into it, not knowing that they're talking about you. It's not the robots. It's the human bots, the humanoid bots. I remember I watched a movie one time and they was talking about mannequins, not mannequins, ventriloquist dolls, right? And they were bringing them to life. But the person's ultimate goal was to create a human version with real organs and all of those things. But the main thing when you're dealing with ventriloquists is that they're puppets being controlled by somebody else with their hand in their back, their hand holding their cerebellum, their cerebral cortex or vertex, their hand holding their life rod, their serpent, their wise dome. Because if I control your spine, I control the electricity pulsating through your body. If I control your spine, I control what it's connected to back here. And therefore, I can push things into your pineal gland to calcify it or neutralize it. This is why people say get a spine, because at present moment you are not controlling your own. But we were the AI that they were talking about, the artificial intelligence, the androids that they were talking about, the I products, the intelligent products that they were talking about. They no longer wanted dumb slaves. They wanted smart slaves that would reproduce their products on their own, thinking they were being entrepreneurs, thinking they were being self-sufficient, self-governed, self-ran. Long time ago, I came into the understanding that it is easier to control a people when you control the way they think, but you make them think that they're thinking on their own. When you master a method of giving them ideas that they think that they're coming up with on their own. Deepest state of brainwash. But I listen to my brothers and my sisters on social media. I listen to humanity on social media. And even within the so-called conscious community or woke community or risen community, it's disappointing because we have a platform like this where we can reach each other and teach each other, and instead we spend it arguing, bickering, degrading, devouring, and devaluing each other, to the point that we are more focused on getting people to follow us and stop following others, instead of realizing we all need to come together. We find words to describe ourselves that are adjectives, and we use those to divide ourselves. The Bibles and the Qurans are not non-words of wisdom. They're still words of wisdom. They're just not all the words of wisdom. And some people will love them to be all the words of wisdom. They're still proverbial words of wisdom. They're words of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, especially once you begin to understand them from a metaphysical perspective, or begin to understand them from a in life perspective, meaning that every identity that is in them lives today. So we need to stop looking at them in yesterday. One of my favorite scriptures out of the Bible is Mark 6:4. And it says a prophet is treated with honor everywhere except in his own land, in his own hometown, among his relatives, and in his own house. And the reason why I respect it, let me say this. To have a far eye, to be a king of one's, a ruler of one's, a governor of one's perspective, and then to have the ability or the gift for that perspective to have a far vision, to be able to see way farther than what the sentinel eyes can see. That's power. But how good is the power if you're sent to a people that don't honor you? How good is the power if you're sent to a household, if you're born in a household that don't get you, that don't understand the value that you are? Until you're no longer here, and then they tell the world how you were related to them, or they tell the world how you grew up right there with them. And it's horrible because some of the biggest reasons that this is that way, that those of us who are truly messengers to the people are received more by those who we come in contact with later on that don't know us from day one is because the ones that knew us from day one are so psychologically stagnated in the times of the past, because the greatest times to them was the times of the past. And in the times of the past, you were going through learning stages. You were going through the experiences of life in order to mold yourself into who you truly are. And so the ones you meet never saw you in your lowest turn. The ones you meet never saw you when you were an infant and you were dependent, when you were a child or a toddler and you were dependent. The ones you meet never saw you when you were struggling, and so you did things that were unbefitting of someone righteous because you had nothing and you had not been given the mental intellect that you should have been given as a child, but you had not been given it to survive any other way other than to do the wrong thing, the isfat instead of the ma'at. And so they cannot get away from that time. And maybe this is a form of a punishment on them. So they hear you and they don't hear you. It's like a parent that thinks for some reason that the child comes into this world to be beneath the parent. Mm-mm. The parent is not a gift to the child is a gift to the parent. The parent is not an extension of the child is an extension of the parent. And understand the word extension means to extend. That means in the right setting, at the right time, with the right things, and the right experiences, that every child is going to outdo their parents, either in isfat or ma'at. If you have ever had a child and that child never surpasses you, you failed as a parent. You failed that child because you have convinced that child to become a slave more than being a being of magnificent splendor and divinity. We didn't come here as children. We came here as ancient spirits. But when you put on this outfit, you got to grow into the outfit, because that's the climate of this real environment. See, this is not the outfit. This is the outfit. This is the fit you put over the outfit. It's another clothing, like when you put on underwear and then you put overwear on and so forth and so forth. But listen, understand that life will become a struggle quite often. And some of the biggest parts of this struggle will be with people who you think should support you the most because they're supposed to know you the most. But the reality is that most of our so-called family and community don't know us. They know what they want to perceive us to be. Shit, with most parents want their children to do everything that they failed to do. No one came here to do what you failed to do. They came here to do what they're supposed to do. I remember my mother, maybe even my siblings, never listened to me truly speak until they were forced to be sitting in an environment where I had to make a speech. And then maybe I think they begin to get a glimpse of just who I am. And again, it makes me think about scripture again. When Joshua at 12 years old, more advanced than his parents, told Mary, "Woman, don't you see I'm about my father's business?" So let me break this down to y'all, because this ain't no religious ceremonial activity. So let me break this down to y'all in our terms, our cultural terms. Family, my people, my household, those who are biological to me. and those who have been there since day one, so they're like biological to me. Don't you see that I'm about my ancestors' work, my ancestral work? I did not come here to be a child to anyone. I came here to advance us. And this message is not just a message from me to those who listen. This is a message from me to those who listen, for those who listen, to share with those who are surrounding them that don't get them. Because you came here. You came here to do the business of your ancestral self. You did not come here to be a child to anybody, to be a standby, a follower of anything that was already in this world. You came here to reestablish this world. So, in that sense, let us reestablish this world. Even if that means erasing everything that had ever came before and renewing, rebuilding, restructuring from the foundational perspective, as we have once done before, millions of years ago, thousands of years ago, multiple times throughout the millions of years that we have been in this tangible form. Stay focused, stay positive, stay around focused and positive people. Never lose who you are once you know who you are. Never sacrifice who you are for nothing and nobody. Don't just wake up, get out of the bed and stay out of the bed and assist others in rising from that slumber. Alafia farana wo monife rela ni di wope aka sima kayeri on yonko pona kaka yeri en flama. Umuntu inga bantu lai ni waju korisege. Fieten ya soto weto farako bachipo. Nakupenda usifi we. Nakupenda usifi we. Nakupenda usifi we. Salute, peace and motivation, wholeness and motivation. Have an illuminating day. I love y'all. Immortally.